Alright, so we're finally seeing signs of life within the strawberry patch. So the strawberry patch here is about 75 plants, 3 individual rows of different varieties that will give us strawberries throughout the whole season. And each of these rows are elevated. You really can't see that as clearly just because we put down the mulch that hasn't been compacted yet, but each of these rows is mounded up with soil, and then the strawberry plants are put into that. And that's simply to stop the water from pooling or being around where the strawberries are. They're soft fleshed, and any sort of contact with water will just lead them to turn crappy and moldy. So what you want to have is them mounded up so the water then goes off of it into the roots and not where the fruit is. But because you then mounded your soil up and your plant is inside that mound, which is above the natural layer, your root system is going to be exposed to the elements. If it was inside the natural soil, it would be insulated from that and protected from the elements, but instead now you're up and out. So that works when you're growing, but when you're not growing, say in the winter, that can lead to issues because the winter can be cold enough, ice, snow, whatever it may be, that will hurt the root system that are now exposed to the elements. So to stop that from happening, you want to put a blanket around your strawberries as they are hibernating for the season. In my case, I just used shredded leaves, but I put a good amount of shredded leaves into there. So you can kind of see a couple leaves popping out, but as soon as you see any of those things popping out, you really want to start pulling back. And once you start pulling back, you'll see more of the plants. So you want to help the growth that isn't up out of the mulch layer, so they can see the heat, they can see the sun, and then they can start growing as well. And the other thing why you want to remove it back to not only help the growth is because inside of your layers of mulch is something that's very moist and very conducive to mold growing, and you certainly don't want to have mold growing on your early plants. So you want to pull it back to feel that sunshine, to feel that heat, but you also are pulling it back so you do not start an environment that is not conducive to young plants growing. So in my case, I just pull everything back, butt it up against to where the mulch is, and leave it at that. The mulch is still useful to me simply because it stops water from being released from the beds when it is hot. So I don't get rid of it, I just kind of pull it to the side and just leave it at that. So if you are growing strawberries, you have to do 2 things. You have to mound it, get it up out of the water, but you also have to take precautions during the winter to make sure that setup does not ruin the root system of your strawberries. So something to think about.